Hey everyone, welcome back. For those of you who are new here, my name is Brittany. I'm a health coach and nutritionist, and my channel is all about helping you to create delicious low FODMAP meals to improve your digestive health. If you're into it, go ahead and subscribe. I put out a new video each week. Today we're making gluten-free, low FODMAP cast iron pizza, which is my favorite recipe. I know it's my family's favorite recipe, and honestly, you can't even tell it's gluten-free. You really can't. The secret to the gluten-free pizza is the cast iron. That's what's gonna give you the best crust. So when I first went gluten-free, I would buy these store-bought doughs for gluten-free pizza, and they were all flatbreads, which is fine. I don't have anything against a flatbread pizza. But the thing that disappointed me was that it was always floppy. It could never support the sauce and the cheese and the toppings that I wanted to put on my pizza, and I am a girl that likes a lot of toppings. So that's why I developed this recipe. So there are two secrets to this recipe. One of them being psyllium husk, and if you've seen my gluten-free bread video, you'll understand why. The second is cooking it in a cast iron, which gives it an amazing crust, an amazing texture in the bottom, and it makes it able to support all of those toppings. So if you're interested, stay tuned. We're gonna whip up a nice margarita pizza. All right, so let's get started with making our dough. First, we're gonna start with 1 cup of water and a tablespoon of psyllium husk. Like I was saying before, psyllium husk is one of the secret ingredients to this gluten-free pizza. Psyllium helps to give your dough structure, which gluten-free dough is missing. So we're just gonna put a tablespoon in water and let that gel up for about 5 minutes. So the way that psyllium husk helps provide structure to your dough is that it's going to help trap all of the gas bubbles that are going to be created by our leavener that we put in there. That's going to help it have a lighter, airier texture and not feel like dense flatbread, which a lot of gluten-free doughs do. Okay, so you see how our psyllium husk is gelled a bit now? We're gonna add our dry ingredients. We're gonna add 1.5 cups of flour. I like using Bob's Red Mill gluten-free baking flour. We're also going to add a teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. 2 tablespoons of oil. You can use whatever. You can use plain olive oil. I have garlic oil here today. A teaspoon of salt. And 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, which I know seems like a weird ingredient, but it's going to react with the baking soda and it's gonna cause a lot of gas bubbles to form. Think of that experiment in school with the baking soda where you make the volcano. That's basically what we're doing. Okay, now we're just gonna stir all this together. I didn't want to get out the mixer today, so I am just using the back of a wooden spoon. Okay, we just want to keep mixing until our dough starts to come together. Okay, so you see that our dough is pulling away from the sides of the bowl. Get it together a little bit more. I would like it to be a little bit drier, so I'm going to add more flour, which is something that you learn to do when you start making your own doughs and things like that. You want it to resemble a traditional pizza dough, the ones that you see like people tossing up in the air and stuff. You can touch the outside with it without it sticking to anything. That's what we're going for today. Okay, so we're just gonna work this a little bit. Make sure the inside of our dough is not too sticky the way that mine is right here, so I need to add a little bit more flour. It's really hard to give you exact measurements for doughs because it's highly dependent on the weather. If it's a very humid day, you're gonna need to add more flour to your ingredient. You're gonna need to add more flour to your recipe. If it's really wet out, you're probably not gonna have to use as much. Wait, that's the same thing. If it's really dry out, you're probably gonna have to add more water. Okay, so we've got a a nice looking dough here. It's a little bit shaggy, but like I said, gluten-free dough doesn't have a ton of structure to it, so it's okay, it's gonna work. Okay, now we're gonna roll out our dough. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of our flour, put it here on the countertop so it doesn't stick. Start with a round dough. It'll make a much nicer circle. That was awkward. I never get a perfect circle, but it's okay, it's homemade. It's rustic. All right, whoops. Okay, now we're just gonna scoop off some of this flour onto the top. And work that in a little bit. You'll see why when it comes to the next step. Okay, so now we've had our cast iron skillet heating up on the stove at really high heat. And I'm gonna bring it over here to show you how to place the pizza dough in the cast iron, which took me a long time to figure out. So we're gonna roll our dough onto the pin like this. Carefully pick it up and then place it, whoops. There we go. It's really hot, so be careful. Okay, I never get it perfectly in the middle, but it's okay. Like I said, it's rustic. Okay, now we're gonna put our sauce on there. I quickly whipped up a low FODMAP pizza sauce using 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of garlic oil, and 2 tablespoons of water. I also put in there a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning and an 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper. You just want to heat that over medium to low heat until everything is combined. All right. It's like hard to get it to the edges. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna put on our toppings. Another trick to great pizza is 2 layers of cheese. I like to start with 1 layer to get my toppings to stick to it, and then I finish it off with another layer. Okay, I just topped it with the 1½ cups of mozzarella cheese. I also have some sausage that I cooked up in our cast iron really quick. It's only browned on the outside, it's not cooked all the way through. It's gonna finish cooking in the oven. Next, I have some cherry tomatoes that I've cut in half. You want to be careful with cherry tomatoes because they do have FODMAPs in them. 1 serving is 5 tomatoes, but we're not going to be having that much on our pizza. Unless you eat the whole thing, which I could definitely do, but I'm not going to. Okay, we're going to add about another ½ cup of cheese, so that's 2 cups total. And then this is totally optional, but I like to add a little bit of fresh mozzarella. You don't want to add too much of this because it is a high moisture cheese and you don't want your pizza to get soggy. Just drizzle a little garlic oil on the edge where the crust is. Okay. Now we're going to pop this into the oven at 500 degrees for about 15 minutes. All right, so while that's cooking, I'm going to prep our basil. I'm going to be cutting it in the style, I don't know. We're gonna be doing a chiffonade cut. So we're basically going to layer these basil leaves like this and then roll them up like a cigar, I guess. And then we're just going to slice it like that. And you'll see it makes these really pretty little ribbons. Okay, let's take a peek. Ooh, it's perfect. Let's just take it out. Okay, our pizza has been in the oven for about 15 minutes at 500 degrees. And you can see it's nice and crispy. You've got the dough is puffed up nicely. It's not like that dense, hard, gluten-free dough that we were talking about before. So now I'm just gonna top it with our basil. I like a lot of basil on my pizza. The trick is to put it on after so that it doesn't get all burnt in the oven. All right, now we're just gonna let this cool down for about 10 minutes before we cut into it. Okay, now let's get this out of our cast iron onto our cutting board. Oh my God, so heavy. So you see, if it was a normal gluten-free pizza, it would have gone everywhere. It wouldn't be able to be held by the crust. All right, guys, there we have it. Gluten-free, low FODMAP cast iron pizza in about 30 minutes. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, found it helpful, go ahead and like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, where I post a lot of recipes that I don't necessarily make videos for. And if you make this recipe, go ahead and tag me. I love seeing you guys make my recipes. All right, well, thanks again. See you next time.